When the House and Senate reconvened to certify the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden, Republicans who had witnessed the lawlessness and the viciousness of right-wing extremists, people who had stormed into the Capitol building that day and vandalized it, decided to continue enabling Donald Trump's lies about widespread voter fraud that has not been proven, that has been debunked several times. And I want to call them out by name because, again, they were emboldened. The people who stormed into the Capitol building listened to what these right-wing lawmakers say, and they know that there wasn't widespread voter fraud. They know that Trump's campaign lawyers have challenged the election results 60 times in court and failed every single time because these cases were without merit, without evidence. But the reason why they've signed on to this effort is because they know that it might be advantageous for their political careers. People like Josh Hawley are eyeing a 2024 presidential run. And so they're gonna go ahead and continue doing what they've been doing. After about 2 hours of debate, more than 130 Republicans in the House voted in favor for challenging the electoral votes. Again, this is after the scenes that we saw yesterday with Trump supporters storming into the Capitol building. 6 Senate Republicans voted to block Arizona's electoral votes from counting, including Josh Hawley, of course, of Missouri, and Ted Cruz of Texas. They were joined by a majority of House Republicans, including House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Also, Representative Scott Perry, who spoke on behalf of the 80 House members, had objected to the Pennsylvania results alongside Senator Josh Hawley. The objection triggered the joint session of Congress to adjourn so the separate chambers could debate. And then finally, the objection, luckily and predictably, fell on a 282 to 138 vote. Earlier, the Senate had rejected the challenge in a 92 to 7 vote. So essentially, as I reported earlier to you guys, Joe Biden was confirmed the winner of the general election. Now, there was a moment that really stood out to me that I want to share with you, and it involved Conor Lamb, a Democrat, who spoke out against the egregious behavior of these GOP lawmakers. Let's take a look.
We know that attack today, it didn't materialize out of nowhere. It was inspired by lies, the same lies that you're hearing in this room tonight. And the members who are repeating those lies should be ashamed of themselves. Their constituents should be ashamed of them. And we know what's gonna happen as soon as I walk away, what's happened all night tonight, what will continue to happen, they will take these same symbols, these same concepts, they'll smuggle them into their arguments, they'll make the same arguments. And I want people at home, anyone who is still watching, to know these arguments are not for them, they're for you. None of the evidence we wanted to discuss here tonight will change their opinions or what they're about to say. But you need to know that's not the end. It's not as if there's nothing we can do because of that. And if there was, I don't think this nation would have made it to almost 250 years.
So Francesca, I want to bring you in. We have the second half of what Conor Lamb had to say because it apparently really provoked Republicans and they were upset about it. But what do you make of everything that's going down right now?
I mean, I appreciate Conor Lamb for, taking a stand on this and not using it as an opportunity to sort of be like, our glorious democracy, which there was a lot of that last night. And I think calling out Republicans is all we want the Democratic Party to do. Because we know going forward, we knew this before this popped off, but now we absolutely know, with the Senate included, there is no middle ground. There is a line in the sand that's been drawn. It's just a trail of MAGA sludge. And if you're on one side of it, you're on the side of believing in a democracy. You're on the side of believing that vote counts matter and that people who won the Electoral College, even though we know we want to abolish it, that matters, right? And on the other side is just the moon is made of green cheese. Donald Trump is president, and also Q and Lord. Like, there is no halfway. So I'm glad that Conor Lamb, who's otherwise kind of moderate, is going straight to the issue, which is the incitement of violence from the Republican Party. And it's so shameful that they're using this opportunity. You saw these idiots. I mean, look, to me, they're the same. Like one is wearing a cow hat or whatever, like a bull horned hat, and the others are just in suits. It's the same thing. They're trying to do what the clown coup couldn't do. They're doing it parliamentary style, buttoned up and couth, but it's still a coup. It's a couth, as I've said.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pathetic attempt, but just because they're incompetent and are failing at it doesn't mean that it's not serious, because think about what happens to their collective consciousness if there are no consequences for what happened yesterday. Just think about that. It continues to embolden the very people who already felt entitled enough to breach the Capitol building several times and then proceed to break into congressional offices, vandalize them. There was a terrifying image of someone on the House floor carrying a handful of zip ties. What was he gonna do with those zip ties? I mean, absolutely horrendous behavior. And again, what you're experiencing in the video that I'm about to show you happened after these right-wing extremists stormed into the Capitol building. So here's the second half of the statement that Conor Lamb was giving, and just pay close attention to how Republicans reacted to it.
The fact is that at the end of the day, people.
Gentleman from Virginia. Point of order. Gentleman will say this point of order.
Gentleman will say his point of order.
Yes, ma'am. Point of order. The gentleman said that there were lies on this floor here today, looking over this direction. I ask that those words be taken down. We may have a disagreement on matters, but
Mr. Land, it's not timely.
this side of the aisle lies.
No, the gentleman's name was not timely. You didn't register an appropriate time. But the gentleman will proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the fact is that at the end of the day.
Yeah, look, you
it's
say
sad,
that
but it's
about me
true.
every single day. So
The truth
just
hurts.
hold your tongue. The gentleman will proceed.
It hurts.
Okay.
It hurts them, it hurts this country, it hurts all of us.
So they want Lamb's statement stricken from the record. They got real triggered from hearing the truth about who they are and what they represent. But I want to give you one other statement from Senator Josh Hawley, who also tweeted this after those right-wing gang members stormed the Capitol. He said, for those who have concerns about the integrity of our elections, those who have concerns about what happened in November, this is the appropriate place. This is the lawful place where those objections and concerns should be heard. That is a man who knows damn well that there was no widespread voter fraud. He knows about all of the various court battles that the Trump campaign lost because they failed to provide any evidence. He knows about Rudy Giuliani and what a clown he is. He knows about the hair dye dripping from the side of his skull. He knows about the Four Seasons kerfuffle. He knows about all of that stuff. He doesn't care, because what he's decided to do is make a deal with the devil and do whatever it takes to appeal to Trump's zealous base for his own political career. And so it's amazing. It's amazing how craven and how sad these Republican lawmakers really are. They're willing to blow it all up for their own personal gain.
Oh yeah, this is like that scene in Showgirls, where they're all trying out and auditioning, except it's like MAGA Showgirls. And so they're like, what am I gonna tweet? Okay, and they just wanna let in all the illegals, and they're like waiting because they look at those nut jobs running around the Capitol building, menacing, and now we know, having contributed to the death of Capitol Police who weren't doing their jobs but should not have died. They look at those guys and they're like, voters. That's all they're seeing. They see Camp Auschwitz, voters. They see all of this stuff, those are their voters. That's who they're appealing to at this time. They want that Trump shine, as if, look at what happened in Georgia, man. As if Trump, one, can campaign for anyone except himself, and two, as if that even works anymore. So what are you doing? You're appealing to the sludge. Great, do a little dance, turn around, show us your behind. I don't know, like, it's disgusting. Like, you want to think that like Ted Cruz had that fundraising email ready to go, and it was like part of the MailChimp scheduled, email, and he didn't take it back before he sent it out. In the middle of the storming of the Capitol, he sends out a fundraising email. I mean, it's just disgusting.
It absolutely is disgusting. And let me just remind you all, earlier in the show, I mentioned that 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. It's closer to 75 million Americans. And it gives you a sense of what drives these GOP lawmakers to do what they're doing right now. They're just thinking about their own political careers. It's just so selfish, narcissistic, and I mean, again, it does so much damage to the country. And also, no more trigonometry from our members section writes in and says that YouGov poll has 45% of Republican Party in support of storming the Capitol and 43% opposed. I have no idea how the ones who think Antifa actually stormed this place would answer. So yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised the number isn't higher, but even in this poll, the majority of Republican voters are in favor of what happened, what we experienced last night. These are probably the exact same people, by the way, who whine and cry about a Target window getting busted when looters decide to take advantage of legitimate protests about policing in this country in order to carry out their own criminality. These aren't people who are tied to the protesters, but it doesn't matter. All we hear is wall-to-wall coverage about so-called looting, when in this case, I mean, the vandalism that took place, that's totally fine. I mean, the right wingers in this country who voted for Trump, the majority of them apparently think it's okay if they storm the Capitol to the point, by the way, that congressional lawmakers have to evacuate and then shelter in place. They're okay with that.
I mean, there's I believe I read a tweet about the woman who was shot by either Secret Service or even it might have been Mike Pence's detail, which is super ironic. But the tweet basically said that apparently the video of her, which is super graphic, we shouldn't show it, but that she's like very surprised that this could have happened, that like she could have been shot, that there were consequences for what they were doing. And it just, at that moment, you're like, this pathology is killing people. Because if you believe that the election was stolen, I think it is justified to march on the Capitol. I don't think it's justified to break through the windows and like menace, Congress. But like in your world of just sucking down Fox News and OAN and wherever right-wing radio, like that makes sense. In everything that you've been fed and what all 130 Republican lawmakers have supported. So like this is the logical conclusion. And so it's hard to blame them, but you're like, how do we deprogram them? And what we're seeing is Republicans don't want to deprogram them because they're afraid of what will happen if they do. Which is like, I've said this from the beginning, guys, you could still be racist without Donald Trump. Don't worry. Oh yeah, you could still hate BLM demonstrators. Like your messed up ideology is still gonna be around with or without Trump. You can accept reality and move forward, but no Republican is actually brave enough. There's just a lot of talking heads on mainstream media, a lot of former Republicans who are like, oh, my party. And it's like, what are you doing about it, buddy? Nothing. You got this job? Cool. Yeah. Like, who is actually breaking off? Is the Lincoln Project gonna have like a new party? I don't think so. I think they're all cowards, honestly.
I mean, the Lincoln Project is now baked into the Democratic Party, which is, it's such a lose-lose situation, really, when you think about that.